my setting to come up so you're going to see this. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'll be right with you. I'm just doing this great thing. I promise you, I'll have my timer. Again, Brian, I know you're old and you're going to say, Dave, where is the timer? It's being developed by a 17-year-old, so I am waiting, and LinkedIn's a little bit slow. So, honey, as soon as this goes, I say honey to you, and I'm looking at her. All right, let's see. As soon as this goes live for LinkedIn, you watch. Here we go. Are you ready? Now we're going to start the show. I'm excited. Come on.
Looks like we're live now, right?
Yep, it should come on. I look for it on my phone. LinkedIn's going to be with StreamYard. The questions will start coming up with them, so I'm kind of glad I can see the comments, but I still have to use my phone or computer.
Okay. Well, I can't see right now because I have my glasses on, but luckily I have my glasses with me, so
okay.
If I need to.
All right. You'll see this come up, honey. It'll come up. Where is my LinkedIn? Come on. Let's see that little notification. Come on, LinkedIn. Don't do me wrong right now. It'll pop up right there, okay? You'll see it. We're live. Okay.
Yeah, we are so live.
We're live. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Dave Wilson of Results. Hey, listen. Today, I have the legendary, not while you're dressed in black, so am I, but Gail Miller, and she's the CEO of Staffing Unconscious Bias, which I just learned what that meant. Diversity, corporate culture, and strategist, career business coach. How are you, young lady?
I know. I'm on a highway to hell. That's what.
That's right. I wasn't supposed to ask you that. Look at that. Highway to hell. I wanted to first, let's just get the first thing out. Gail, what do you do?
What do I do from a business perspective? Okay.
Everything.
So it's twofold. I do career and business coaching, and then I'm also a specialist in unconscious bias, diversity, and inclusion.
Okay. In my words, what does that mean?
Exactly what it means. So I help companies with, well, actually, it's interesting with unconscious bias.
Right.
I help organizations, and I actually have a course, which I'll put the link. I'll do a special promotion for the viewers.
Okay.
I have an unconscious bias course on Udemy.
Okay.
And it's really good. It's for recruiters. It's for everyone, actually. And I just put a new module in there for unconscious bias and coronavirus, which is pretty interesting. And we could talk about that today.
Okay.
So I help organizations with diversity and inclusion and unconscious bias. And then I also help candidates too. When I coach them, I tell them about unconscious bias because they need to be aware of it. And there's ways to, help combat that.
And that's what drew me towards you. Well, the first thing that drew me toward you, I liked how you dressed in black. That's my favorite color. And being on TED Talk. And what I wanted to ask you about that real quick to get this off, is that nervous? And how do you even get onto a show like that? Like, you look very professional. I like how people do that. How?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. It was, I think, through a connection, and I had to try out. And I got to tell you that I am a natural introvert and also shy.
Right.
And so public speaking for me has always been a huge fear. But I knew that I needed to do it in order to move ahead and propel in my career and my business.
Right.
And the message was stronger than my fear. So I had this, unconscious bias idea, which has always been with me because from so many years, I've been talking about unconscious bias and the stupid reasons why we don't hire people, or maybe even hire people because we like them, or I'll give you examples later, but so I did the TEDx talk. They almost fired me. It was such an experience. The woman that was in charge, we kind of clashed a little bit, and she gave me a week. I think it was 2 weeks before, and she said, "I'm really, really sorry, but this is not working out, and I just don't think you're good enough, and you're not doing well." And I really wasn't doing well, but she doesn't know who I am, that I always come through, the last hour. So she gave me a couple days, and we sent videos. I sent a video to her, and then she provided feedback, and she's like, "Well, I just don't, I'm going to give you a chance, but you're really gonna have to practice a lot. And I did. I had a coach. I practiced a lot, and it was really interesting because, not to brag, and I'm not the type of I'm the type of person that I want everyone to do well. My competitors, I don't even look at them like there's room for everyone, right? So if my competitors are doing well, I'm happy with it. Like, I'm fine. So I'm not that type of person. But there is some satisfaction that through all the speakers in that particular TEDx event, mine had the most views to date. I just checked it last week because I don't like to look at it, but I have, I think, almost like 140,000 views, which is, I don't live and die by my views. I could care less.
Right.
But again, there was some kind of satisfaction that even though she was going to kick me out, I had the best outcome.
Well, that's
and
what I
was signed by a speakers agency. Like, amazing things have happened because of my TEDx talk. It's amazing. It was the best thing that ever happened.
That's what I mean. When I watched it, naturally I'm a staffing, so that's what drew it to me too. Once you started talking about staffing, and then I was glued to it because, first of all, again, dressed in black, I liked it, and how you talked about, and we'll go into that polka dotted dress and what you talked about. And unconscious bias to me was like, what was it? And you were talking about how your brain processes, and I don't understand all that, but can you explain to me, break it down to what is unbiased? What is it?
Okay, let me put it in very easy terms.
Right.
First, I want to say we all have unconscious bias.
I'm guilty.
We all have it. It's inevitable. There are things that we can do to prevent it, but again, it creeps in because our brain is structured that way, because we are bombarded with 11 million pieces of information at any given time.
Right.
But we can only handle a couple. So our brain makes shortcuts. So just imagine if we didn't have those shortcuts, how difficult it would be for us to go to the supermarket every day. You know how you go to the supermarket and you just go and you don't even think about it? You're in auto drive. You need that. Otherwise, our lives would be cumbersome. So when you do that, there's also a downside, because when you make decisions and you evaluate situations, all of your experiences and previous judgments and stereotypes and all that information that is stored in our filing cabinet is retrieved, and we make quick decisions. And sometimes there's bias in that when we do that.
And that's what I liked about, I'm never going to forget this, and words are powerful. Sometimes people don't believe when they talk and you listen, or anybody listens, but the yes file and the no file. And then I thought to myself, yes file, no file, what did that mean? And you talked about, let's just say, where you went to school. And can you explain basically like that way, how you said Indiana, like you Mark Cuban, no, yes.
Yeah.
That was something.
It's interesting because when I did my TEDx talk, I purposefully picked people that people can identify with, that are successful. And I have a really interesting story. I had a financial services organization call me, and they wanted to hire me to come into the organization and help train their employees on unconscious bias. Right. And what did I do? I looked up on LinkedIn, and I noticed that everyone went to Ivy League schools. And I addressed it. I said, so do you want me to talk about the Ivy League schools? She goes, oh, no, we're not going to touch that. I said, well, then how am I going to, we've got to address this. And she said, oh, no. I said, well, then I'm sorry, I can't help you, because you can't pick and choose which bias. That's the problem with corporate America. We cherry pick our bias of what is acceptable. So, okay, let's hire more women. Great. But are they over 50? Okay. No. So if you're going to do it, it can't be, half, half, whatever you want to say. I don't want to curse on here, but so there's so many biases. It's crazy.
It is, because like I had one of the questions that I had one of my colleagues ask you, and I feel now that I've transferred over from high volume recruiting to even now professional services, I have a lot of candidates now, and it's a total different switch now, because professional, I hate to be biased. I guess I am in that way when I say professional versus what? Just because they're light industrial, there's a difference. There's not when I listened after I watched the show, but with a professional, they keep saying they're not going to hire me because of my age. What do I say to that? I always come back. I feel, and I don't even want to talk about what's going on now because I don't think it's important. Is age, what do I say? I know sometimes you said about emails, AOL, MSN. Okay, then you can look at it and say, well, that's an older person. And I'm sorry, I'm mad today. I wanted to ask these questions, and how do I answer something like that? When I want to be honest with a person.
Yeah. I mean, what I do is I'm very honest. I said, yes. I mean, there's bias in anything, right? I mean, someone could be overweight. So yes, is there age bias? Absolutely. And I think it's important for anyone that's over 40 or over 50, realize that it's there, but you can't use it as a crutch.
Right.
As far as not getting a job. So what do? What is the bias? What is the common stereotype? And this is how candidates can alleviate these concerns or this bias, okay? And sometimes there's nothing you can do, all right?
Right.
People have such ingrained thoughts of their bias that they're not going to change, and it is what it is, and you don't want to work for those companies anyway. But when it's someone that is able to maybe change that bias and their thoughts, and they don't know they're doing it, so it's unconscious, right? There's a difference between unconscious and conscious, and sometimes it is conscious. Sometimes, like, we don't want to hire someone over 50, and they come out and say it. But so basically, what are the objections when you're over 50? What do people think? They think that you're outdated. They think you have no energy. They think that you're gonna ask for a lot more money. They think that you're going to be bored. They think that you're going to try to take over and not be team oriented. So knowing what some of these stereotypes are, you're not going to go in an interview and say, well, I realize I'm over 50 and you feel this way about me, but I'm going to tell you that's not the case. No, you're not going to do that. What you're going to do is go over some of these stereotypical biases, and then you're going to go in there and sell yourself and say, look, this is my experience. I've implemented A, B, and C. I've accomplished this. I'm on the forefront. I stay updated. I implemented and chose, as part of the RFP process for the new software. So these are the types of things. And you got to be energetic. And that's a big thing that I notice, is that people say there's not a lot of energy in people over 50. And there are people that are under 50 that don't have it. But I would say that's part of it. It's like, well, they were kind of low energy. So you have to be, when you're over 50, you've got to go in there with high energy. Like, you're ready to rock and roll. You're ready to go,
Go.
Yeah.
And then we do have a couple comments. Let's see. Tuvia, all right. Selling yourself and experience. That's a good response. Finding an employer who values your experience. And I agree with that. That's a really good, thought, Tuvia. And he's from New York. I really like this gentleman's idea. And because of LinkedIn right now, with everything going on, you can really meet some great colleagues now with some ideas, and I'm waiting for Vic to come on. And I want to tell you a short story when you said about that. Vic, with video resumes, I really believe the videos really help. And this gentleman, his wife, commented, "Can you help my husband?" And after the show, I said, "Sure." I called her, and very nice lady. And she said to her husband, he's older. He was in the military, and he's having a hard time finding a job. Let's say, with everything going on, he doesn't know what's going on. So she sent me his resume, 4 pages long. And I was like, wow. So there, I looked at it and I was reading it, and a lot of it was over the same thing, what he's done. But then at the end, and I'm sorry, you see my military, I'm a military family, and I saw 2 Purple Hearts. I saw a medal there was a medal of, it wasn't the Medal of Honor, I have to look back, but I was like, wow, why? That's what I said to myself, because I didn't even see that because of the length of that resume. So I called him, we talked, and I could tell he was a former Marine. It was, I had this professionally done, and and I said, okay. So then I called his wife. He did just yesterday, the video resume for me. And I put a special question in there about your military experience. Because I'm sorry, when I saw the Purple Hearts, now I don't know if that's bias. I don't know if that's what you mean in a way, but I was like, that tells me honor, team, the stories that he was telling, and the examples he went through. So is that bias to me or to an employer? Would you consider that? Or
there could be bias for someone who is in the military. I mean, obviously there are companies that want to hire people that are in the military, and they should, but then there are other companies that have bias against that think it's not a good thing because they feel maybe they're too stringent. And I hate to say this, but I'm going to be honest, post-traumatic stress, like they think about that, and how are they going to adjust? So it works both ways. It's in the eye of the beholder, the bias. Someone else's garbage is someone else's gift, right? I mean, that's kind of how it is. But so this is my take on it, is I believe that you should be true to yourself. So he should not take that off of his resume, because if someone does not respect what he's been through and what he could bring to the table, then I say, screw the company. Who wants to work for the company anyway, right? Like, but I think there's a balance of being authentic to yourself, but then also knowing that maybe you shouldn't put certain information on your resume.
And there's a
balance. There's a balance of too much information, right?
I'm going to get mad.
Information, but yet being authentic.
And that's what I mean, because you can tell I get very pissed off at it, because when somebody says to me, okay, I'm older, but I've been in the military, I have some health issues. And I believe that's when I was looking through your thing about coaching. I believe really you need to be coached sometimes, because I try to tell people, maybe you don't want to say that. Or maybe you didn't get that job because one gentleman came back to me, why did you say you had a DUI in the interview? I mean, come on, very great man. But those are the kind of things, why? And on the video resume, I like it is because you can express yourself. I can get you that interview really by looking, but I can't promise you the job. So they're the kind of powerful things that I'm trying to handle is on a professional level, or because race, your beliefs, like if someone likes, and the government, different presidents and everything. Listen, I respect every president I've had. It doesn't matter to me. He's a president. I don't go into it because I know what it causes. I don't go into talking my beliefs, whether it's religious, because I know it causes issues. But is that bias also because of myself saying that? Does that make sense?
I know of a company that laid off people, and this is the God's honest truth. They laid off employees that supported Trump.
Right. That's what I mean.
Any political posts that anyone has could be held against them, or it could be held to their advantage, right? Depending upon who's, viewing it. So a person's got to be careful, but then at the same time, should a person have to worry about it? You see, that's the whole point, is we should be able to freely write what we want to write and not be judged by it, because it shouldn't be a factor anyway. Right. And someone is going to argue, well, you know a lot about what they write about. Well, they don't have to agree with you.
Right. And that's where
when does someone's political beliefs become part of the interview process? Before the internet, this was never an issue, because now we have access to so much information. I mean, let's face it, when a recruiter, and this is the truth, and if anyone wants to discount this and say this is not the truth, okay, say it, but it's probably not the truth, is that when a recruiter or hiring manager gets a resume, what's the first thing they do? They go on LinkedIn to look at the person's picture. Now they could say, and then they try to match it up and then try to find inconsistencies. Or now I'm not saying you do it on purpose, but let's face it, there is a voyeur type of thing that recruiters and hiring managers do because they want to see who they're going to bring in or who they're not going to bring in. But what did we do before all of this? Okay. Because I recruited back in the day when you didn't see what people looked like beforehand.
Right.
There was none of that. It's like, all right, you talk to them on the phone, you spoke to them. And if you like them, actually, a lot of times you didn't speak to them. You just bring them in and that was it. There was not a lot of phone interviews. I mean, there were some, but I'm trying to remember, but there was none of the noise that we have today. There's so much noise.
And that's what I mean. And I told you I was waiting for this because I don't care. It's Friday and I have time to vent, and a lot of what you were saying was another example. I had a candidate come in and this was for a certain company, very choosy who they wanted. Okay. I learned, I knew. A young lady came in and then she wasn't all dressed up. She wasn't looking. I was talking to her and, her language wasn't as, as far as she was, let's just say just nationality. And then I looked and I was like, I said, I'll tell you what, I sat with her resume. I said, you need to work on this, right? Do me a favor, go down. She went down to the job link there and then come back tomorrow and we'll talk. Now, I didn't think she would come back at all. She came back, did it right away, had all the information on there, dressed up for me, and then I listened to her story. And then I'm like, and it was really true. She was very honest with me, and I was like, wow, I sent that candidate. And then I got held back one time because this person says to me, why did you send her? What do you mean? Why? And he says, I wouldn't have sent her. And then I'm like, no, I'd send her again. Because you didn't even give it a chance. I'm sorry, I get irritated about it, but you did not give it a chance to even listen to this person. If you would have listened to the value of her work ethic, not so much what she's been through, and that, you don't want to go into a two-story, but there again, is that bias, is that unconscious bias.
So what was it about her that he didn't like? What did he say?
I think it wasn't being a female. I think it was looks. Sorry, I'm just going to be honest. I think it was maybe the way she looked because it wasn't the way. Listen, when I first looked at her and she wasn't dressed, and I don't want to say it like I looked at her the way she wasn't dressed, but when she came back that next day, because she said, I wanted to rush over here before you closed, and you saw the energy. And then I thought to myself, why? I don't think she's going to be a great candidate. But then when she came back and she did it, I guess that's what I wish that person would have seen. Because then I feel it was a wrong decision, but I still don't regret saying, what do you mean, why? I would send her again.
Right.
To anyone.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we don't know. I mean, sometimes there's valid reasons why people don't get hired. It isn't always bias, right? And I think candidates need to put their best foot forward.
Right.
And sometimes they don't. So, or they do put their best foot forward, but there are so many blind spots they don't understand. And once they become aware of those blind spots and they could change that, then they become a better candidate. See, it's really hard because we're all guilty of it when we interview someone. And there's just something that you get this feeling.
Right.
That just rubs you the wrong way. And it could be a personality conflict. Right. And you're not going to hire them. Right. Is that right or wrong? I mean, that's kind of where I get the pushback, where someone can come in for an interview, they've got great skills, and there's just, you can't, in my TEDx, you can't quite put your finger on it type
I like
thing.
You said the shoes, the white shoes.
Yeah, that really, someone thought I lied about that. And that happened actually with a financial services company in New Jersey. And actually that was for a recruiter job. Someone was a recruiter. And she showed up in white pumps after Labor Day, and she's really good, but it just bothered them that she wore that. And I knew that was the reason. I just knew it. But there's so many things that we get distracted by and our own preconceived notions. Like, I'll give you an example, the commute thing. That drives me crazy because in New Jersey, there's so much traffic, people commute, and, you know, hiring manager or recruiter could see where the person lives and automatically decide, you know what, I'm not bringing this candidate in because they live too far. And it's going to be a pain for them. Well, you know what? It's not for you to create that story for them. Everybody has their own threshold and their own reasons for commuting. I used to live in North New Jersey. So no matter where I worked, I would have to commute an hour. I was fine with it. It was my alone time. Now, if someone wouldn't interview me because of it, who are they to say? Who are they? Who is a recruiter or a hiring manager to make life decisions for myself and tell me it's not okay when it's okay? So everybody has, when people say, I don't want a long commute, the first thing I say is, well, what's a long commute to you? Because a long commute to me could be two different things, right?
Right.
So it's not for a hiring manager or a recruiter to say the commute is too long. And a lot of times they'll say, well, I got burnt before. Someone had that long commute and it didn't work out. They didn't make it on time. Well, not everybody who has a long commute is the same person. Just like everybody who lives 5 minutes away doesn't have the same characteristics, because someone 5 minutes away may be not such a great employee. So we make these generalizations, we make up minds for candidates, and it's not for us to make up that decision, though we do it every single day. We decide. We have the power. And it's not right. You got to give people a chance, especially great candidates. If you're willing to put someone in the no pile because you think their commute's too long and they're going to make you millions of dollars or make your company more efficient, that is so short-sighted. It's very insular type of thinking. It's crazy. This is what I would say to people. If someone said you'd have to commute an hour, but you can make $1 million, what would you do? It's like, okay, now it's okay. Well, guess what? Maybe $75,000 to someone is a lot of money that's going to pay their bills and their mortgage to them. That's their $1 million. So they're willing to do that hour commute.
That's what I mean. And I have written on the board up here. I've started to utilize it. Look, see, I really did my homework on you. The black, the goth, and I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
But so what?
Yeah.
That's what I thought about last night because I was excited to talk to you. So what? And if you just put those two words together, now that when I'm going to interview someone, because I like when you said that you were guilty of it also. So then I was talking to my wife and I said, you know what? I think I'm guilty. And I'm not saying it. I know. And I've done it. And I'm going to be honest because after just watching that, so what? And what did you mean by that? Like when you said that, did that just come off of a saying you felt at that moment or?
No. So what is real for me? That whole TEDx talk, everything that comes out of my mouth is authentic. So it's not like I came up with so what out of the clear blue just for the effect of the TEDx talk. No.
Right.
So what is something that I would say all the time, that I say all the time to my clients in recruiting. I would say, so what? Who cares? It really is. So what has many different meanings. And so what I've used for years and years and years. I mean, you mentioned goth. When I was a goth chick back in the day, right? People would look at me and treat me. I get kicked out of places because of the way I looked.
Right.
But little do they know, I'm going to school, one of the top schools in the country, studying. Not that that means anything or makes me better anyway. Even if I wasn't, it shouldn't matter. But it would so annoy me. But I wouldn't care because, look, if I'm dressed that way, that's who I felt I was. Just like putting on a pair of jeans. People would say, my family would say, oh, you're doing it to be rebellious or you're doing it to get attention. No, leave me alone. Like, that's how I felt. Just let me be.
Right.
This is how I am. I'm expressing myself. It's just the way I am. It's like no different than someone putting on a pair of jeans or a pair of sweats or a suit.
Right.
That was my uniform, right? So, but it drove me crazy knowing that people thought certain things about me because of the way I looked. But I had such a so what attitude. I'm like, so what? F you. I mean, so what
Right.
is a variation of pretty much F you. Like, who gives a F, right? Who gives an F? So I would use that a lot in my life because I really knew how to focus on what matters.
Right.
And this so what is so important right now, more so than ever, because now we realize that so much of what we complain about and so much that we focus on is so not important. And a lot of it is a big so what. I mean, we spend most of our time worrying. 90%, or there was a statistic, I forget exactly what it is, but it's like 90 or 95% of our time we spend focusing on worrying about things that don't matter.
And that makes sense there because
yeah. So if we could say so what to a lot of things in our life and really laser focus on things that do matter, whether it be hiring or how you want to live your life or how you care about how others view you, we spend so much time worrying about what is that person going to say or what do they think of us? So what? They're not in your shoes. Like, we worried about what other people think. So what is a very freeing thing. If you can do that and live your life like that, people think that saying so what is actually not caring about anything. It's actually the opposite. It's about caring about the most important things. That's what it is. It's about being laser focused on what matters. So when you could say so what to everything else, that means nothing, that's meaningless, that we build in our head and the stories that we tell ourselves that are meaningful, which are not, then we gain perspective.
And that's what I liked about what I learned. See, I'm going to make you have a big head. You know, oh, Colin did said love ACDC. All right, Colin, thanks. He's from Ducking Out. Where's Vickham? You said 12. Well, that's all right. You just say Vickham, he can ask a question anytime. I forgot, different time zones. So when I listened to when you talked about all that, and I was very interested what you were saying, I was involved, and then how you said, about you don't like polka dotted dresses, I think, and all this.
Yeah.
But then you said at the end, okay, so if I came out here with white shoes, with a polka dotted dress, green hair, I forget, something like that, and you gave the same talk, would have I have listened? I think that was the message. Would have I listened to the message if you were dressed and looked that way versus the black, which that did stand out. I'm sorry. The way you were dressed in black. But is that what your message was there in a way?
Yeah, it's like, so what if I came out here in white pumps, purple hair, I think it was purple hair, whatever it was, and a white polka dot dress or a red polka dot dress, so what? And that's really the whole meaning, is decluttering all the thoughts that we have and focusing on what matters. And it's interesting that you mentioned the all black. I wanted to wear really all black. They wouldn't let me. They told me to put on a blue shirt because they said I was too black and I was fading in the background. So I was like, but yeah, I mean, I hope a lot of people get something out of that TEDx talk, because
I did.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of feedback, and I hope it's eye-opening to people that we base so many decisions, especially in hiring, and even on the job, the people that get promoted. Or do you ever work for a company where you see someone get promoted and you're like, how the heck did that happen?
Right.
How did that happen? Wow. Like, what? And a lot of it could be due to unconscious bias. Even your raise, your compensation, who gets, the important meetings or who works on the special projects, our communication style. I mean, there's so many things that impact.
That.
And managers have to be really cognizant of it, how they treat their employees, because employees feel it. It could be very subtle, but people feel it. You could feel it when, your boss walks into a room and they never look at you, but they're always looking at everyone else. You feel it. And managers, sometimes they don't realize what they're doing, but the employees feel it. So
that's where I guess I think I'm coming out now saying, hey, I'm guilty. Here's all my sins.
You don't have to come out, because we're all out. We're all out. We all have it. I catch myself, even though I do this for a living, I catch myself every single day. But that's the key, is the more awareness you have, the more you're aware of your thoughts and how you're judging something. And you're like, you know what? I'm being biased. Like I call myself out all the time. There's so much bias in the media.
Right.
And I want to talk about this. We got to be really careful, because each channel, let's use CNN and Fox, and I'm not getting political by any means, right? But I would think most of your, the audience is either on the CNN side or the Fox side, right?
Right.
Now, if you're on the CNN side, you're going to agree with what they're putting out, and you're going to disagree with Fox, and vice versa, right? It works both ways. So basically, you're gravitating to the media that confirms your bias. And that's really dangerous, because there is so much BS going on in the media. You don't know what to believe. So I tell people, you got to have an open mind and say to yourself, if I were to flip this, if this came out of CNN, would I think differently, or vice versa, right? So if you're a CNN person and there was something on Fox and it was switched over to CNN, could you see yourself believing that? So even the way the reporters spin and communicate the media or their reporting, they have their own bias. So the media's bias, it's inevitable, because when they put their words or the adjectives to describe something, they're already making the decision for you. They're already saying this is how you're supposed to feel about it. And it's not objective. So the media, I have every day, it just drives me insane, because I
try not to watch it.
Crazy.
I try. If you had to give some just straight out advice, to everybody that's listening, and did Vic sign in yet? How can I join? Oh, hi, Dave. He's on good. So, Vic, please ask your question at any time. And I've been telling that I wanted to ask that question. So please answer or ask, right? Live. I love live. How do you, if you were just to say right now, how do you change? If you were looking at all of these recruiters right now, what advice would you just say, and what would you say?
Okay, so there is a lot of different ways. You've got to have process and procedures, which I'm not going to go into.
Right.
And you got to be careful with that, because then within the process and procedures, you could have bias baked into that. But you've got to, the more standardized things are, and the more diverse that you have people poking holes at it, the better you'll become. So the more, again, more process and procedures in place to help alleviate that. Empathy is a big thing. Being empathetic to other people is huge. Also, being a replacement. So I kind of gave an example for the media, is flipping what your idea of a person is. So you see someone, okay, and you think they're one thing, but actually they're the opposite, okay? I'll give you an example. In my course, well, you know what? I don't want to say what's in my course because it'll ruin the exercise. Okay. There was a study, and they mentioned something about a doctor. People assumed the doctor was male.
Yep.
But it was the doctor was actually female. So you have to flip it. You have to change what your preconceived notions are when you automatically go to your quick judgment thinking. You got to question yourself, well, how do I know it's a male? Maybe it's a female. So that's one thing. My so what attitude, my so what kind of check, like, does this matter? Does this matter? Why does this bother me? What are my beliefs about this? It's questioning yourself. Why does it bother me that I don't like their shoes? Can they do the job? This person doesn't seem professional. Well, what are my thoughts about professionalism? Why does it really matter? Could we coach this person to, this is maybe a detriment to the organization, but they have so many other qualities. If we could change this a little bit, we could be okay, instead of just saying no off the bat. So it's really questioning your beliefs, your belief system. Right. We're not always right. Most of the time we are not right. Think about the times that you've assessed a situation or you think a person thought a certain way and you're like, oh, I just know. Like even by an email, like email is really dangerous.
Right.
And this happens to me a lot on LinkedIn. People are like, oh, you're angry. I'm like, I'm not angry. This is just like my style. But they're perceiving my language that way.
Right.
Right? They're like, oh, you're being no, I'm not angry. I'm just stating my opinion, which is not fact. And they think I'm being like combative, but I'm not. I'm just, I'm saying it like this kind of. It's like no big deal. But they're perceiving it that way because maybe their thoughts on how I am writing is anger, but it's not, or confrontation.
Well, that's one of the questions that I struggle with because, all right, I have my own staffing company. I've started it. I've started this show. So I've always asked colleagues, and this is a straight out question. It's always hard to answer. Do I be honest? Do I lie? Not lie, but like, now that I'm on my own company now, I can say kind of more what I want versus, but would you judge me with somebody right now? Because listen, a lot of these companies that are watching this, I'm trying to get their services, so would somebody judge me because I say the wrong words? And what I've learned through this whole last couple of months is just like I told you when I started out with the social media versus LinkedIn, I was scared to death. LinkedIn, I didn't want to click on it because what are you going to think of me? And that's where I come back to now, like, so what? Because I'm just telling the truth. And if I look at you and I've watched your videos and the one last night, that was funny, but I think I know you in a way, like you can trust somebody, or I don't think it just matters that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that everybody's so worried about what other people think of them. See, I'm not worried about that. If someone doesn't like me, I rub someone the wrong way. Oh, well, like I can't worry about that.
Does that hurt your career though? Does that hurt? Have you seen it?
No, because there are people that want to do business. There are people that resonate with me and vice versa. Then we're going to do business together. You can't be everything to everyone. And I am not good at changing myself, my personality to play the game. Like I'm not that type of person. I'm just like, that's too exhausting. If I can't be myself and authentic, then I can't live. Life is too short. No, it's not worth it to me. Money's not that important to me that I'm going to be a chameleon. I'll never forget. I had a coach in the beginning of my business. And she said, I think you need to wear glasses. Now I have prescription glasses anyway. But
I get to take my glasses off.
She's like, you'll get more business that way. She's like, studies show if you wear glasses. I'm like, no, because I was wearing contacts at the time. I said, no, I'm not doing that just to get business. Well, I think it's worth it. I'm like, no. Like if I want to wear glasses, I'll wear glasses, but I'm not going to do it just to get business. Like that's
right.
And some people would be like, oh, okay, if it gives me the upper edge. You got to pick and choose what you're going to do as far as upper edge. Oh, there's another tip I want to give recruiters and hiring managers, which really is helpful in combating unconscious bias, is the resume, taking off the names. That can make such a huge difference when the recruiter gets the resume and then they take the name off and then they send it to the hiring manager. What a difference. And then you take off the college name too.
Right.
It can make a huge difference.
And that follows into the questions here that I have too. And Vikram, Seth, like I explained to you, he's the CFO of video resumes and Colin. Well, let me do Colin's first. How do you make sure decisions made in an interview are, let me see the whole thing. Here we go. How do you make sure decisions made in an interviewing room are not based upon discrimination? I mean,
Well, yeah. So you got to have set questions. The evaluation has to be fair. There's got to be a group effort. And you've got to really poke holes at this. Like, why aren't we hiring this person? You know? And if you're looking at the requirements and that person meets the requirements, then what's the problem? Right. And then you got to dig deep on that. So the evaluation process has to be airtight.
And that's why now when this is Vic, and I like this question a lot, and I've always pressed about the video resumes. Now, to me, the reason I like video resumes, and I'm very passionate about it, not only because my vision was being virtual, remote, my whole entire staffing agency now is, I want to be, I think it's savings. I think it's just more being honest because I can be myself, not in the corporate world. But Vic asked, what is your opinion on video screening? Do you think that it would trigger discrimination?
Yes.
Because we get asked this a lot.
Yeah. When there's video, of course. Of course. Maybe more so.
But if it's saved, now I want to answer that when I'll come back at this one. Okay, so I have, with the video resumes, I have everybody's video resumes right now, right? Say I have 70 of them. So I'm sending those 70 client candidates to that employer. Now we know we've said, and I understand what you said, but couldn't video resumes help try to alleviate that a little bit? Because if a company, again, discrimination, couldn't it help? Because if you see the data, like if Duckenow or whatever company can show the data to a company that, okay, why aren't you hiring females? I'm sorry, I'm just to say, why aren't you hiring males? Why aren't you African Americans? Why aren't you hiring Latinos? Could that help? Is that
So when you say video resume, their video, can you tell me about that a little bit? They're on video doing what?
So what I do is I send you, like right now, that's what I work on right now. I skill market you. So I would say, Gail, I'm going to send you a video link. Questions, 4 or 5 questions, okay? I can make them as general as possible, whatever. So I'm going to send it to you, all right? You're going to upload your regular resume into it. You're going to put it on there. Here's your questions. You're going to answer them, set yourself a nice background. You're done talking. Now it comes back to me. So now I send that video because they're going to say to me, Dave, I want to work at Coca-Cola. Okay. You have the resume that's attached to it. You have the person on video talking. Any type of test that I want to put on there, that Vic, if I need any kind of skill test, that could be attached. So now it's in a non-PDF form. So it gets to go. Now I've had a success rate of 80% of people getting interviews pre-COVID. So this goes to them and they're like blown away because now I look at it as it saves me time and them time. Because if you're the employer, think about it. You're going to look through here. Wow. Okay. Just like I said, that gentleman that was a former Marine. The reason I put that in there was because I felt, maybe that wasn't, but I felt if somebody heard his story. So now you have all that information. The client says to me, send me more. Send me more. So I continue to keep sending them and I keep sending them. Let's just say it's all females. Just hear me out. It's all females. It's all recorded. It's all males. You can't say to me, I will not. If somebody says to me, Dave, I want a female or male, I will not. I won't. Because to me, I can say honestly right now, no. You can see my veins in my neck. No. It's not fair. And that's where I get irritated. So the video resume to me and like to Vic is like saying you can't discriminate them because when you said in your video.
Yes, you can.
But you said, here we go, right? You said IT. Would you hire somebody named Barry or Chang? Well, you know what I mean? You would probably pick Chang because let's just say that person, because we say in India or any country is better in IT versus here.
It was Bill. It was Bill Gates.
Bill.
Shanger Bill Gates.
I got to calm down. There goes I just get passionate about it because I want to change this. And that's why I like that full screening. And if you had that data, of saying, wait a minute, you're discriminating. So I've sent 70 candidates and 10% of them were a different race that were not chosen or whatever. Wouldn't that be beneficial to a company if you're all required and you all fit that? If I feel, wow, that test is 100%, this person fits all this needs, but because whether he was dressed differently, whether he was not gone to that Ivy League school, whether he or she was shorter, taller, you know what I mean? So I vented. There you go.
Now, thank you. Now I get it, but the person's on video, correct?
Yes.
So if you remember, I mentioned the telephone interview, right? There could be bias there. So even in a video interview, there could be bias because there could be something they don't like. Look, there could be something in the background. Someone may look at my background and say, oh, I don't like that Buddha head, right? Or I don't like her books. Okay, I've got Malcolm Gladwell and I've got other books. Like, oh, I don't like what she's reading, so I don't like the plants she's got. I mean, it's, her religion, it's like she's got a Buddha head, whatever, people are thinking things up. So there could be anything. They don't like my hair. They don't like my accent. They don't like the tone of my voice. And it's all unconscious. It's all unconscious.
To come into the office, sit here, and you got all done. And he says, Dave, what's that over there? And I look, and it's okay, it's a Bible. He goes, what author? And I said, look, I like Charles Stanley because, listen, I don't speak religion about it. Now, it was just sitting there. And he says, I would suggest to you that when you have candidates come in the office, I would have it sitting there. So I said to myself right there, he left, so I put it away. And then right there is where it woke me up. I'm like, I like that author because I don't preach the religion, but I like it because I can understand him the way he talks. But I was blown away with that because I was like, could I have said that in somebody's office? Like, I recommend that you take that away. Would I hire him? No. You know what I mean? So that.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is what I tell candidates. So let's say you go in for an in-person interview.
Right.
And you go into someone's office and you see, let's say, I don't know, Giant memorabilia. Okay, I'm a Giant fan.
Right.
With their New York Red Bulls. Okay, and I see something there in their office. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I have season tickets to the Red Bulls. I love the Red Bulls. I'm there every time they have a game, which I totally miss because obviously no one's playing anywhere. And then all of a sudden, they feel this connection. And again, you want the bias to work in your favor. So we tend to hire people that are more like us, that like the same things. And that's why when I coach my candidates, I mean, not my clients or candidates, I tell them, do research. They're doing research on you. You do research on them and try to find the common ground so you could go in there and feel connected. And it may sound fake and phony, but it's not. I'm not telling you to say something that you don't believe in, but you got to find that connection so they feel good about you. Right. It's the same thing we mentioned college. If someone graduates the same college that you did, there's an excitement, or they come from the same town, or they lived in a town that you used to. It's natural. It's natural to get those endorphins up, to feel excited that there is a common thread. Right. And if we deny that, then we're lying to ourselves because we all do it.
Well, then how do you coach someone? And I'm not sounding like I'm irritated, but when I listen, how do you coach when again, I don't want to say, but being biased, I'm just being honest. How do you coach somebody in that interview room, in there, where you're going, and okay, all right, you might be a different national. I don't want to bring it to like a race thing and everything like that, but I'm going to keep it biased. But how do you coach somebody that when you know they're the best freaking candidate, but because you're older, they might not look the part?
Okay, so if it's someone over 50, I'm so straight up with that. I'll call it out.
Right.
And I'll be like, listen, we know there's a bias. And everybody brings it up anyway. When someone's over 50, they're like, oh, I know. So I'm like straight up. I feel like I can say because I'm over 50. So right. So I'm in that age group. So I feel like I could say something. So I say, look, this is how you're going to combat some of the unconscious bias. Now, if it's someone else, that maybe, I have to say, I usually give the same advice, like be energetic, talk to your achievements. But if someone, oh, that's my dog playing in the background. If you hear that, he's playing with a toy. Like if someone's overweight, let's say someone is obese, I am not calling that out. I am not calling that out. I'm not going to say, oh, you're obese. This is what you need to do on the interview. No, I'm not going there. But I would give them the same advice as I would give someone over 50. Be energetic, right? Talk to your accomplishments, dress professional. I mean, it's a lot of it's the same advice, really, but
I like the energetic. I will take that from here.
Huge one. People don't realize the energy is huge. Is huge. If someone has an accent and they talk really fast, now I could talk really fast, but it's different maybe if someone comes from another country. So I'm going to say my suggestion is just talk a little slower, and that's how maybe I would address that. But even if someone spoke really fast and they didn't have an accent, I would give the same kind of advice.
Right, on that part. And that's where, do you feel, and this was one of my questions I wanted to ask you, and I can do it now because I'm my own company. When you're with the corporate world and you're going out doing sales and you walk in that room and you listen to some of the companies and the way they treat, example of myself or a salesperson, the typical, oh, here comes another salesperson. Here they come. Well, they're going to promise you this. See how negative I get? But you feel that. You feel that from them already before you walk in. So you kind of say to yourself, I'm screwed. They're not going to give me a chance. But what I've learned in these last 8 months, that would be me being myself and being honest. I don't, maybe I'm not a good fit for you because I don't want to work for you, because I listen to, some of the companies and I try to tell them with the power of video, I try to say, like, show some positive things, not just send us a body. And I get irritated over here because it's like, oh, come on, as recruiters. Oh yeah, come down, steel toe shoes, no interview, just show up and you're ready to work. Wow, isn't that freaking exciting? But if you show, like, I know that company, and if they would show the benefits of, wow, if you work hard, look at these benefits. Couldn't that change your life? Look at the breaks. Isn't that nice? Isn't it nice long? Look, you get 3 breaks versus 2. Look how they buy you lunch on Fridays versus the other companies don't. Look how they have picnics. This company doesn't. You where I'm going with that? It's like, show them. And it might show a candidate want me to come to you. So what I'm trying to learn now is try to find that fit for that candidate. Like when I listen to a candidate.
But you got to be really careful with that kind of stuff too, because that could just be all a facade of, like you could have all these great perks, but your boss sucks or the corporate culture sucks, just because, you've got picnics and, massage therapists come every month. A company I work for. I mean, it's all great. Don't get me wrong. But I think people need to really focus on the values of an organization and making sure that you guys are synced up with the values. You know, what I really hate when people say in recruiting, they're not a fit for this corporate culture. What does that mean exactly? You know, a lot of times that is like a code word for too old, too something, not enough this, not enough.
That is one of your questions. That is one of the questions I had for you. Super good. About the culture fit. And that's what I was good. So go ahead. I'm sorry, but I had.
You know, and I'm guilty of it too, right? Like I used to be a leader, the recruiting leader for a software development firm. It was very entrepreneurial, very fast paced. They were growing, $1 billion organization. And I would always say, well, you know, we want to make sure that you're a fit. And what I said was, you know, let's say they came from an AT&T, right? AT&T, I always thought that it was very siloed. It wasn't entrepreneurial. It became very stale. You do one thing, you can't, there's not many things going on. With this company, it was changing. It was very fast paced. So we always thought that someone who came from a very large organization that maybe worked for a company for 15 years wouldn't be able to adjust. So hence, we thought that they would not fit into this corporate culture because of the adjustment of the different types of work environments. Is that valid? Right? So we could argue, I get that, right? We don't want this person to drown because we don't think they're going to be able to adjust because of what they've done before, right? We got to look at their past. But we're making assumptions on their past that they're going to be like this in the future. Now, I get that because that's based a lot on behavioral based interviewing, right? Like what they've done in the past, they're going to do in the future, right?
Right.
How else are you going to judge a person, right? If they had past accomplishments, that's all you got, really. How do we know, right? So you look at their past accomplishments and you're going to assume that they're going to do it in your company. But you could also assume if they haven't accomplished anything, why would they do anything for your company? But are we always right about that? Like we have to questions, or you know, it becomes very cumbersome when you start thinking like this. And I probably think too much because I could poke holes at anything. And then you're like, what is the truth? What is reality? And then you're like, maybe there is no reality, right? Like our reality is what's in our head and what we think. We see the world through our own lens, but is it always right?
Right.
Right. So it becomes very difficult when we talk about corporate culture. Is this person going to be a fit? And we make assumptions based on that. We got to be really, really careful. And we've got to make sure that it's not a code word for you're too old, you're a woman, you're an African American, you're gay, you're this, you're that, or you're not this, or you're not that. Got to be really careful. You know, boys club, you know, that's, well, I don't think they're going to quite fit in. And it's like all men making this decision. Really? Well, okay.
Well, that's what I like.
The woman's not going to fit into your board of directors. Okay. I wonder why, because it's all men, you know?
And that's what I learned is one powerful word for me as you work yourself up is, I'm going to say, is manage them out. I didn't know that word until you start climbing a ladder. And I'm like, manage them out. And now I get it. I got it, because it was like, all right, the decision's already been made. Manage them out. That's the advice that you gave me. Manage them out, Dave. What the hell does that mean? So why don't you just fire the person off?
That's terrible. It's like you're not giving anybody a chance. This is why I hate corporate America sometimes. I really
don't give them a chance. Don't give them a chance. Don't. And I'm sorry, there goes the veins again. But don't. My biggest friggin' thing was, did you talk to that person? Did you give them a chance? Did you write them up? Did you give them a chance to show them? Why is it because he didn't show one result? Well, did you train him? Did you teach that person? Maybe you don't like him, so you're going to look at her and you're going to give her more attention than you are, not her, him, but that person.
That's actually called a horns bias, where you find something negative in a person and they're never going to get that one thing. That's it. Like, you've made up your mind about that person, and there's the opposite, a halo, where someone does something amazing and that's it. Like, they're great and anything else they could do. So you could have two people that do the same thing, but you're going to perceive them differently because whatever they are, or your preconceived notions.
Right.
So it's very complicated. We're complicated people. We're dealing with the brain. We're dealing with all of our experiences and our judgments. And it's hard. It's a hard thing. And it's impossible not to have it. But there are so many things that we can do, as I mentioned, to try to keep it in check. And the more self-awareness, and the more that you question yourself and the decisions that you make and poke at it, the more aware you're gonna be. And yeah, because I mean, I find myself very opinionated. I've got strong beliefs, and then I sometimes like, whoa, what? I need to question that. Like, why am I thinking that way? Well, I get why I'm thinking that way, but I could see the flip side of it. It could be very tiresome to be like that, to always question yourself and your beliefs. But it's important to.
And that's where I have like two more questions for you. Is like, if the resources, like, what would you recommend? Is there something that you learned? How did you learn to take it back? Was it reading materials? Was it watching videos? Like, how did you learn yourself what your passion of what you talk
about? I did research. I did a lot of research. There's actually an implicit, I mentioned it in my TEDx talk. Harvard has an implicit online test, which is kind of controversial, but yeah, I did a lot of research. I mean, I knew there was bias from a very early age. So it's something I've always been interested in. I studied sociology and philosophy in college. So I've been studying it since like 18, probably. Like, right. Yeah, I've been studying it since I'm 18.
No. And did you say something about a book? Did you had something coming up about a book, or you wanted something to share, or did I misunderstand you?
Actually, I am in the process of writing a book, which is an extension of TEDx, but it goes way deeper. But no, I do have an online course, an unconscious bias online course.
Okay. All right.
So I'll put it. Can I put it in the and I'll give a special promotion. Okay. I will put it in the comments.
Okay.
On your post and in my post that we promote it. That's what I'll do.
Okay. All right. And then one last one. Of course, I want to thank you. I tell you what, this was my Friday relief, and my granddaughter, she's like, "Look at you, you're sweating," and I was rushing. And then I dressed up black, and look, she's only wearing an AC/DC shirt, but that's okay. But I really appreciate for you.
Thank you.
Talking with me, and to know that your message got out to someone.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way, because it did. It wouldn't have brought me to talk about this, because you can tell if you're passionate in a certain area. So in like 30 seconds, if you could just sum it up about yourself and what you could recommend for recruiters or anyone, what would you say?
I would say in 30 seconds, well, first, to try my course, but that's the least of it. I would say really question your decisions that you're making. Be empathetic. Hone in on your process and procedures. Take note of who's in your department. Are you embracing diversity of thought? Because that's another thing, diversity of thought. We only want to hire people that think like us. It makes us feel more comfortable. I'm going to say it's okay. Be comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Okay, that makes sense.
And when you could do that, then you know that you're making strides. Because sometimes having those conversations or being more self-aware of ourselves and realizing what's happening,
right?
Then we're uncomfortable. And then eventually that uncomfortableness will feel comfortable.
Okay. That's I like that, and that's what I mean. I think just bringing it to awareness now that I understand it. I'm going to be thinking differently outside the box, if you want to say, because I don't want to look at that. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to look at the skill, that skill set, not look at the person. Just because I don't like them, that doesn't mean you're not going to like them. And
right.
So you try to learn, and again, maybe it's because I always say I start up my own company. Is there a difference why I can say this now versus why in my past career jobs, why am I thinking differently?
Right.
Because
really quickly, corporate America, there's such a groupthink mentality. Right. Like everybody, it's built in a way that's very conformist. Very conformist. It's very difficult it's an institution like anything else. And it's built on feeling comfortable. That, as I said, right. And being like each other and thinking like each other and being in consensus. And, that really stifles innovation. And that's what I will say is when you can hire people that are more diverse, studies do show that your company will be more innovative and you will understand your customers more, because I will tell you, a lack of diversity will impact how you treat your customers.
That's very important. Just what you said.
So if you don't care about your employees and all you care about is your customers, do it for that sake, right? Like, do it for that reason. And I would just want to end on the note, just use the so what test. Say so what, and say so what. It transcends more than just bias. And that's why so what is so important to me, because it's about living your best life.
Right.
Especially now. If you can't say so what to so many things right now of what's going on, then, you got to get a perspective.
Your perspective. Watch this, honey. So, how are you feeling?
I'm on a highway to hell, baby.
No, I know. I watched it last night. I'm going to tell a story real quick, everybody. I'm sorry. Last night I was watching. I was listening to Miss Gail's talks, and one lady, she's like, "So how you feeling?" She goes, "How the f you think I'm feeling?" Or how do you want me to say? Well, I lost my job. I don't have any money. The kids are at home. What do you think? Why don't you say what? I'm going to tone it down. Watch this. What can you do for me? Or what can I do for you?
Or how are you feeling?
How are you feeling? See?
Right. Well, that's kind of, that's a little different, but.
Right. But
anyway. All right. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate it, everybody. And I know this, hour and 12 minutes. Woo.
That's a long one.
That's a long. So I'm going to end it here and then hold on right there. Here we go. And I always want to make sure it's off. All these blue